my takes on tribalism,
Mm-hmm.
we whittled ourselves down to the nuclear family,
Mm-hmm.
and we're even whittling that down to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And for a marriage to work, the legalism we have now is not only not enough, but it encourages divorce with the no-fault divorce stuff.
Yeah.
And you really need a community around you that has a stake in your relationship to push you back together.
Mm-hmm.
And the pain I'm experiencing now, part of the pain I'm experiencing now is that even the Orthodox Church is not a substitute for having a stable, involved, extended family on both sides of the marriage. It doesn't substitute, because Orthodoxy for a lot of people, and I don't necessarily put the Ethiopians in this, but for just about everyone else, we're not, our churches descend from an ethnos, whether it's Rokor or OCA, or in my case, Antioch or the Greeks. But at best, we're a mixed multitude of people that are more in the modern culture than we are in the church. And it's just a lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
And even if people wanted to, even if the priests and the bishops wanted to, it's very difficult to enforce things on people, because you can leave the Orthodox Church altogether.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to another jurisdiction, and this may get me accused of mild sexism, but you're not just marrying your wife.
Mm-hmm.
All of the women in her social life, those are coming in too, and those are the people that she's talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that's all the nice older church women who are in stable marriages who want to have a stake in your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these people who are outside the church, who are involved in the culture, who are like, you don't need that guy. He's no good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that there are even people who were at my wedding who are in the church, who, if they didn't actively encourage her to end things, certainly didn't encourage her to work things out with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that
has to sting.
Yeah, it does.
I mean,
but I mean, it's that has been, but it's because what I've been trying to do is trying to find a way to undo all the influence of this destructive modernist liberal culture in my life. And what I found is that even orthodoxy is not a place to escape it. But if I go back to the root of things, it's like, I saw who she was early on.
Yeah.
I brought her to the church where I established myself. And so all of the pain of seeing people who were my friends first side with her is my fault ultimately.
Hi, this is Paul. That clip you just saw is from this conversation on Grail Country with Nate Hile and Paul Renee Nicholes. I first met Paul Renee at the Chino conference, and he and I keep up a little bit on Twitter. He, of course, is a big protagonist in the Denim Wars. And I'll drop another little clip in him, a little exchange that we had at the Chino conference, which was great fun and really a delight. And I listened to this whole video of Nate and Paul, and I think it is just a tremendous video. You know, I backed into almost accidentally the Randos conversations and how that became something of a tradition. And especially those early Randos conversations of the first year or so, they were so powerful. And then every now and then another really powerful one would happen. But it was just people sharing themselves. I just had a conversation with Dave W. That'll be out on the channel this weekend about the South Estuary, which is coming. But this meeting with Nate and Paul was so poignant, partly because it was birthed over the discussions about liberalism, and Nate was flying pretty hot on Twitter and talking about the TLC and some of its anti-liberalism. And Paul has been one of the people who's been most critical of liberalism, as you could hear from that clip. And so when I heard that Nate and Paul were going to talk to one another, I sort of braced. I thought, oh, how's this going to go? And then Nate said, yeah, I talked to him, and I didn't, I wasn't going to argue with him about liberalism. I just wanted to hear his story, and Nate did such a beautiful job just hearing that story, but not just helping Paul tell his story, but also Nate sharing some of his own story. And one of the big themes of this video is divorce. And that's something we've talked a fair amount about, divorce of parents. That comes up fairly often in the Randos conversations, but partly because of sort of the age group that many of our people are at, not a lot of talk about, especially men and divorce, and men who divorce because their wives have cheated on them. And again, it's almost a social reality that if a man does something bad, that'll be proclaimed from the rooftops. If a woman does, it's a little bit muted. And of course, the assumption is that men cheat on their wives, which men do. And I believe, someone can check out the statistics and put them in the comment section, I think men still do cheat on their wives at a slightly higher rate than wives cheat on husbands. But it's just a really poignant thing when it comes up. And I remember Peter Kreeft talking about the fact that divorce is more painful and more difficult than a betrayal of a spouse, or divorce of a spouse is more difficult than dealing with the death of a spouse. And I've seen that often, that at least when a spouse dies, there's in a sense no more wounds that can be had, and partly by virtue of the fact that hindsight, we usually view the past through rose-colored glasses. I've often seen that a spouse, maybe even in a difficult marriage, after that spouse passes, it's not quite so bad with the other spouse. Sometimes the kids have a lot more work to do just because of the where the kids are in their developmental process. But when there's a divorce, especially if the kids are still involved, especially if the parents can't seem to stay on the same page with respect to a child or grandchildren, man, it's awful. And so but there were also, it wasn't just the sharing of divorce. Paul was just so transparent and honest about so many aspects. Eventually he went to Orthodoxy. That clip I played, anybody who's listening to my channel isn't going to say that I'm somehow here to sort of knock Orthodoxy. I want to speak the truth and share people's truths about all sorts of different things. But I mean, there can be so much good press about orthodoxy that when you hear a story like this, to me it just rang true. And part of what was really beautiful in this conversation was that for Paul, it's really clear he is looking not just to transform himself. He ends, maybe I'll drop the clip in of how he ends the video. I laughed really hard when he talked about it. So many of the themes that have been kind of in and out of this corner over the last 6-7 years were in this conversation. And so I'm not gonna play too much of the conversation. You know, I certainly would encourage you to go and watch the full conversation on Grail Country, because just from start to finish, it was beautiful. And I wrote both of them, and I told them, you know, just sincere thanks for what you did in that conversation. And yeah, and for me, it gets into this whole question of what we're doing here on the internet together. And when I see a conversation like this, it's like, I know what we're doing on the internet together. Again, pain shared is pain divided. Glory shared is glory multiplied. And it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So I'll have a little couple clips, and then the link to the main conversation is below, and by all means do watch it.
And we ended up getting back together in June 2023. But it more or less became a slow burn of the same dynamics, except instead of just kicking her out, now I have to go through a legal process around it. Yeah. And so it's been 4 years of this on and off again mess with me trying to please her, and her being unhappy and blaming me for her unhappiness, even though I don't think that is justified. And I haven't been able to convince her, like, there's just some things you're doing that are just not, they shouldn't be present in this relationship.
Yeah.
And as much of an asshole I am, and as many of the bad things I've done to you over the years, like, they're just some things that that mean you lose the argument. You got to stop this stuff before we can really move forward. And it hit a head.
Yeah.
After I got back from Posca in Florida. My friend wanted me to be his godfather and be at his baptism. And so I went to Miami Lakes, which is that church that Peterson and Peugeot showed up to when they were doing the Exodus recording.
Right.
And so it was like a month after I got back. Things were already bad between us, but I said no to DoorDash, and she got up from the couch and poured her drink on me and threatened divorce for the last time. And she was out of the house for a month, and I tried to get her to come back, but that didn't work.
My first marriage was 19 years, and my son Kenneth is from that marriage. I mean, my marriage was good for a long time. It just, I got sick around 2013 or so. And when I was sick, my ex-wife formed a really close relationship with a guy who I used to supervise at my job. I was the manager of a computer store, and he was one of my counter technicians. And we ended up having to let him go because he was a good tech, and he was a nice young man. but we ended up having to let him go because he was very autistic and just couldn't deal with customers. When customers got angry, he didn't know how to handle it. And customers get angry on a fairly
regular basis,
and you need to be able to de-escalate that, and he just couldn't do it. So I was the one who had to let him go. So I felt bad about having to let him go, and it's like, so I invited him to like come over to my house for drinks, you know, like no hard feelings. And it's like, I told him I would give him a good recommendation if he was applying for a job where that was less public facing that I thought we would be appropriate for. You know, I would say that he was a hard worker and he had good technical skills and all that. And if it was a less public facing job, he'd be appropriate for it. But in any case, when I was sick and in the hospital shortly after, like my wife ended up developing a very close friendship with this person, and the friendship like became so close that it ended up like alienating me from my wife, and it just the relationship just got progressively worse and worse over time, and so I eventually just got, you know, fed up with it, so yeah, we split up in 2015, but we didn't actually get divorced until 2019, and we were married in 99. So so I had both maybe some more positive good times, you know, than what you had, but it was also like because it was because the relationship lasted so long, when it ended, it really felt like a death. Like there's nothing that I've been through in my life that was anywhere near as painful as that. And we are still pretty cordial because we do have a child together.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm actually like her friends with her new husband. She ended up marrying that guy. So it's like, it's not like I was crazy to be concerned and jealous and, you know, so, so yeah.
I mean, I think it's really hard to build things in the world as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this dovetails with my takes on tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
We whittled ourselves down to the nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
And we're even whittling that down to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And for a marriage to work, the legalism we have now is not only not enough, but it encourages divorce with the no-fault divorce stuff.
Yeah.
And you really need a community around you that has a stake in your relationship to push you back together.
Mm-hmm.
And the pain I'm experiencing now, part of the pain I'm experiencing now is that even the Orthodox Church is not a substitute for having a stable, involved, extended family on both sides of the marriage. It doesn't substitute, because orthodoxy for a lot of people, and I don't necessarily put the Ethiopians in this, but for just about everyone else, we're not, you know, our churches descend from an ethnos, whether it's Rokor or OCA, or in my case, Antioch or the Greeks. But at best, we're a mixed multitude of people that are more in the modern culture than we are in the church. And it's just a lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
And even if people wanted to, even if the priests and the bishops wanted to, it's very difficult to enforce things on people, because you can leave the Orthodox Church altogether. You could go to another jurisdiction. And this may get me accused of mild sexism, but you're not just marrying your wife. All of the women in her social life, those are coming in too, and those are the people that she's talking to. And it's not like that's all the nice older church women who are in stable marriages who want to have a stake in your marriage. It's all these people who are outside the church, who are involved in the culture, who are like, you don't need that guy. He's no good for you. And I suspect that there are even people who were at my wedding who were in the church, who, if they didn't actively encourage her to end things, certainly didn't encourage her to work things out with me. And so that
has to sting.
Yeah, it does.
I mean,
but I mean, it's that has been. But it's because what I've been trying to do is trying to find a way to undo all the influence of this destructive modernist liberal culture in my life. And what I found is that even orthodoxy is not a place to escape it. But if I go back to the root of things, it's like I saw who she was early on.
Yeah,
I brought her to the church where I established myself. And so all of the pain of seeing people who were my friends first side with her is my fault ultimately. Because, breakup after breakup, I got back together with her and I pushed through a civil marriage and a church wedding. Accurate, detailed history.
Right.
My point is that what we've been doing is cities have been eating the small towns to keep themselves going. And that's why small towns have collapsed in America and in other places. And what you do is you get your lottery ticket at a fancy university, you move to the city, maybe at best you have one or two kids, maybe you move out to suburbia, but we're eating we're eating these old bodies to feed cosmopolitanism. And the urban industrialization that happened in the 19th and 20th centuries, that really accelerated this process. And part of it was driven by, farm automation, making it need less labor, people flooding the cities because of that. And because of this conveyor belt, assembly line capitalism, it's obvious why this innate desire for collectivism would come and take shape around something like communism and things like that. But unions and communism is not the solution. Being in a tribe for people who need to receive an identity, that's the best place for them. And what happens as a result of what we've done is we get these remainders, like all the homeless in Southern California, all these people with mental illness. They would, there was a mandate in tribes that you take care of your people. And when you will yourself down to nuclear families in the individual, you get assisted living for old people, you get homeless on the streets, and industrial grade solutions to this, like the insane asylums, that's still a band-aid, and it's obvious why people reacted in horror to that stuff. But even if we tried to redo that stuff to try and clean things up a bit, that wouldn't fundamentally solve the problem. What you need in order to buttress yourself against these large egregores like Google and the multinational corporations, those things can only exist because we've destroyed the tribes, and there's no proper counterweight to these huge bodies that just eat up individuals and spit them out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the sick thing is that we preach democracy, we preach individualism, we preach self-actualization, and that just becomes, material gain and that sort of stuff becomes what people use to substitute for having an identity handed down to them in a proper structure. And this is why I say tribalism is inevitable, because there has to be a level of collectivism. And when we force everyone to individuate, it's natural to have things like feminism come in and to divide men and women into political classes, and for political entrepreneurs to use that political division to their advantage. And the idea that your identity is being a woman or being a man or being a particular race or whatever, that's the best we can do outside of tribalism in this high scale, uber individualistic system that we have. And the only way to have proper identity for everyone is to have ethnos and a tribal body where the most competent guy is the head of it, and he is obligated to take care of the people below him, and everyone has a particular role in the body. And outside of that, people are just becoming alcoholics and taking Fent on the streets of San Francisco and drowning themselves in, I hesitate to say sexual satisfaction, because the promiscuity is, it may satisfy for a moment, but it doesn't really solve what people desire. But because of how we've allowed things to be, we've allowed things to get to this state, it's very hard to build something that works, because the acid of liberalism, no matter what you try to build, whether it's an Orthodox church or it's a marriage, it's going to come at you. And you have to reset not exactly reset the whole thing, but you need a different set of structures and a different set of rules to make things that actually work and last. This idea that, I'm going to plant trees that my grandchildren will find shade under. This idea that I'm going to start a cathedral that is not going to get finished for hundreds of years. We don't do that stuff anymore, because that stuff comes out of this tribal identity. It comes out of these obligations. And when you erase all of that, you get
there's a lot of other things that come along with tribal identity too. That it's not like everything you get out of tribal identity is only an unqualified good.
Nothing is free. I'm just saying, like, the human scale is the tribal scale. The modern industrialized, individualized liberalism is the demonic egregore scale, where people are just pawns that are used. That's why people who shipped manufacturing over to Asia, they didn't feel any particular obligation to the peoples whose jobs they were destroying, because the the goal is GDP line go up. It's not we have obligations to those below, and those below us have obligations to us.
Mhm.
When you separate the head far enough, then the head is just going to scheme in whatever way that works best for the head, because it's detached from the body. But the only way to have a proper head and body relationship is it to be scaled small enough that the identity flows through the whole body. But something like Google or the federal government, that's always going to separate head and body in a way that makes that impossible.
Yeah, but I just don't see any, like, well, first of all, I think you bring up a lot of excellent points, and there's a lot of things I would agree with. I would want to push back.
You are scared of tribalism because of the pseudo-tribal egregores of the 20th century communism and fascism, which are just, those are products of this same system. They're not the same thing as tribalism. And the thing about tribalism is that there are bad things that come with it.
Yes.
Like, you don't, in a tribal situation, you don't own yourself. You can't just leave and go to college without permission. But the positive sides of that come along with the negative side of that. Like, we have this town, we have this village, it maintains itself because people just come in and people can't just leave. You have obligations and duties and responsibility. And what we've done is we've told everyone, you've got rights. Eat, pray, love. Do whatever feels good. And that is killing us. Our birth rate shows that. The mental illness shows that. And to me, it's like, what we're doing isn't working. That's all there is to it. And we cannot save or redeem this, as far as I can tell. As much as people want their micro craft brews at the convenience store and the cheap coffee delivered from all regions of the world and all the avocados they could ever eat and Disney World, that's great. But we are entering an eschaton that is going to end this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've studied enough history. I have a big affection for China because of my my training in Taoist philosophy and Taoist inner alchemy and my love of traditional Chinese tea. I'm not sure where I was going.
No, you're being very articulate, and you're making your case very well. And there's a lot of things I would agree with you on. I just don't know. I think I would want to have another conversation where I would try to.
I remember where I was going.
Go for it.
The Tao Te Ching and Sun Tzu's Art of War, and Kung Fu Tzu, Confucius, his work. All of that happened when the Chinese Empire at the time was transitioning into the Warring States period.
Gotcha.
And for whatever reason, because of my Eastern leanings, I'm not that up on Rome. I'm not obsessed with Rome, though probably I should be as an Orthodox Christian. What happens is it's a Tower of Babel situation. You build too high, you build too wide. The head separates from the body, and eventually communication between the head and the body falls completely apart. And what happened in China is it more or less split into multiple states that congealed into 3 states with warlords running them, all of them trying to vie for being the authentic Chinese empire. And
do you ever play Romance of the Three Kingdoms?
No.
Okay.
And that's where we are now. And I said this somewhere else, but the the internet, but before that, mass media and our shipping channels, the containerization and all the stuff that America did post World War II, the internet and our trade system, that is the American version of the Roman road.
Mm-hmm.
And the various forms of Christianity are akin to the Jewish diaspora in the Second Temple period. And we are going to enter, excuse me for prophesying, we are going to enter into a period where these Roman roads bringing Christianity back together in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a Pentecost type moment. And the temple is going to get destroyed. I don't know what that means. And the American empire is going to fall apart. And we are going to enter a warring states period. And the only thing that can come out of that is tribalism, because in the absence of globalism, the poverty that follows is going to necessitate people to actually work together.
Right. I would say, boy, I have so much to say. I wanted this is your time though. And so we'll just have to talk again later. I'll bring you back on again and then I'll push back really hard. But for now, I want this to be your moment. And so I'll let you have the final word. And I think that you're bringing the things that you are talking about, although I do not fully agree with you at all. I have a very strongly opposing opinion. However, the things that you're pointing at are important. And I also share your sense that we are living through apocalyptic times. So that we could definitely agree on that. I just don't necessarily agree about what direction it needs to go to be resolved.
I mean, but we can hash this out later, but
yeah.
I just want to make it clear, to me, this isn't about how things should go. Like, I'm not talking about...
You're talking about what you see happening inevitably.
This is the pattern, and it may happen 50 years from now. It may happen 300 years from now. I can't tell you. My ability to see in the future is not that precise.
Well, I think if you're predicting the ultimate, that things ultimately collapse, you're just correct about that.
Yeah, but sure, on any...
That doesn't mean that we should be rooting for it to collapse in our lifetime.
But I'm not
trying to bolster...
I'm not rooting for it.
Gotcha.
I don't like what we have now.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something almost everyone agrees on.
Sure. I am foolishly optimistic. I'm 43. I haven't had any kids, but I want to. It's very hard to build things in this world, but God loves me very much, and he always gives me another chance. And women still think I'm handsome. So as battered as I am by the last 43 years, and as concerned as I am about where things are going, I'm still going to get up in the morning on weekdays and lift weights. I'm still going to try and get my weight back down, so I look slender and sexy. Nothing tastes as good as being thin feels. And I'm still going to approach pretty young 25-year-old women with the same confidence, because I'm not going to give up until God forces me to repose.
All right. Thank you, Paul. And God bless you and good luck. I hope you find all the joy and happiness that you're seeking, and I hope you find a life partner that will be worthy of your affections, and that you spend the rest of your days enjoy. I really do.
Thank you.
Midwestuary 2025, August 22nd through the 24th. In Elmhurst, Illinois. A weekend you won't want to miss, with special guests Cale Zeldin, Paul Vanderklay, Rod Dreer, Elizabeth Oldfield, John Vervaeke and Jonathan Peugeot. Midwestuary 2025, The Fellowship of the Spirit. Stay tuned for more details. Visit us at midwestuary.com for ongoing updates.
Still I have it. There are moments I conveniently forget that I'm a 40-year-old man. The last vestiges of a ghost long dead. A ghost with a messiah complex. A messiah too lazy to rise or ascend. Happily hurt and hard. A hanger-on or haunting of a time past. A heroic dream of the harrowing of hell. Failure to launch. Cling to a life vest. Treading in spells that linger and last. Mom and Dad, righteous and mad, daydreamers with ghosts of their own. My memory of them stoic, looking with aims to pretend. Always on the brink of somewhere. Each a child dancing on the fence. On down the river. Dreamt in the sunshine. Saturday morning cartoons, the only Sabbath I knew. A disciple of Jim Henson and John Hughes. Worship in cathedrals where the Toys R Us. Baptized in ball pits. A clown served the sacrament we eat. More Pepsi and Pizza Hut. Say please. Say cheese. Between Kurt Cobain, a scrambled cable screen, towers tumbling, Super Bowls, and reality TV, the ghost is constitutionally unwilling and intrinsically unable to see and be seen, searching madly for attention to seek. But you could be anything. Never say never. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing, ever. Don't talk to strangers. See what I say. Just do it. You don't listen very well, do you? You don't do very well, do you? You're not looking too good, are you? Keep up. Appearances aren't what they seem. Will you ever grow up? You look like you're stuck. I think you took too much. Echoes the ghost within the host, who prays the dead bury their dead and stay buried.